Okay, it's day 100. This is going to be a fun one. A couple of days ago, 2 days ago, I did this video about Sandia Labs. And I made the note that Sandia is close to Los Alamos, Sandia is close to Lawrence Livermore, and Sandia is close to Hawaii. Now, I also made the comment if you were doing weapons testing, that would be a great location, Sandia. I talked about Mr. Deep Uranium being out there stationed there doing weapons testing. And you've probably seen different commercial press reports about HEU being on planes at Livermore and being on planes at Los Alamos. And this is where people are going to be sampling, just much like Bob Mueller was sampling this stuff, out to different research labs around the world. That's why I think you're seeing people getting caught with this stuff that are not Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller gets to fly military jets. But let's go back to megatons to megawatts. Now, if you don't remember what that is, we're going to go to the ship here, and we're going to ship this all into Savannah, and it's going to come in, it's going to be highly enriched uranium. Now, that could supply foreign weapons programs if you had a 1-2-3 agreement with a foreign nation, like any of these nations over here, UAE, as well as you could do a secret program through UAE to Iran. It's going to be just like Iran-Contra. The thing is, you think you would maybe want to downblend it here in Lynchburg, Virginia, a little bit to provide fuel for these different power companies. But what if somebody said, hey, wait a minute, we can store all that stuff here in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and that way we'll keep it, and then if we have any 1-2-3 discussions that come along with UAE or Iran or other deals that we make with Turkey, etc., all these major powers, we can actually station FBI personnel remotely, like in Saudi Arabia, and be kind of a local supply house for all these different weapons and research programs. It's really not going to be a weapons program. We're going to call it a research program. We could put people over in the Ukraine. We could put people in Pakistan. We could put people in India. We could put them all over all these different countries. We could put them in France. We could put them in Estonia. We could put them in England. All over the world, basically, we'd have FBI agents, Australia, New Zealand, etc., China, North Korea, even if the CIA might want to do that, South Korea, anybody who had a research program. So you could have people flying from Los Alamos and flying from Lawrence Livermore all over the world with HEU in their pocket, even though they're not supposed to. And every once in a while they catch somebody. You'll see those articles. But for the most part, and anytime we needed to do a peaceful nuclear explosion, and I know some people don't like that idea, but I think underwater nuclear explosions are quite reasonable as long as they're done far enough away. And it is good for developing resources. We could just fly this stock out from Sandia to Hawaii to do that experiment. Now remember, Sandia can withstand a Delta Force attack. So it's very secure there. I've also been to the Parkersburg location. It's extremely secure. Now, I'm going to use a name. I don't like saying the name Rothschild, so I'm going to just say the name Rich instead. So you think back to Mark Rich and so forth. So now there's a Rothschild involved in Genie Energy. I'm going to just say Genie Energy, the Rich involved in Genie Energy. Now, could Seth Rich be involved in that family? Could Bob Mueller be married to a Rich or a Rothschild? I don't know. It's kind of conspiratorial whenever you say the name Rothschild, so I'm always afraid to say it. But he does have a couple of relatives out here. There's a Susan out here, I believe, that works for Northrop Grumman, or has a son named Aaron that works for Northrop Grumman. I think Seth Rich's real name is Aaron Rich, and he works at Northrop Grumman. As I've said before, this whole thing kind of centers around space and nuclear. The space side is more the Comey side with Lockheed and so forth and Bridgewater, those investments, and the nuclear side is really the Bob Mueller side, along with, I think, there's going to be a contractor for General Dynamics that's going to be the McCabe side. So I think there's going to be three families that are all going to be kind of in this cabal, I guess you would say. Now, I don't know if it's going to turn out to be John McCabe of BDM, which is a division of General Dynamics, which was the key company that received all this. At the time, I think it was called GE Hitachi at that time, but I think it becomes General Dynamics. They changed the names quite a bit. And that's where Andy really becomes the third leg of the chair here. Andy really is the family that's controlling the reception of the the uranium. So the GE Hitachi program that we've been talking about, this third generation of Silex equipment that spins this stuff potentially much more efficiently than gas diffusion turbines, centrifuges, is what we're talking about. So third generation laser Silex is supposedly going to be 10 times better. Well, that was known back in 1994 as this ore was coming in. Wouldn't you want to just say, hey, wait, you're a Rothschild, you're a Rich, you're a whatever. If we're all involved in this, we're all government contractors, shouldn't we sit on this? Isn't there going to be a research need from some of these countries over the next couple of years? Shouldn't we sit on this and wait? We can always go to Wyoming. Remember, Wyoming has that Shinko Lobwe mine. That's the mine that feeds that power plant, the Idaho National Labs, for these nuclear sub-power plant development. While we're sitting and waiting to see if this technology comes out, we can just feed it through there, out to these power plants being made. Now, I believe General Dynamics is also the company that makes these power plants. I think it's a division of General Dynamics. I think it's going to be Austal, or it's also going to be Electric Boat. But a division of General Dynamics makes it. So, hey, let's not go crazy. Let's stay right here in Savannah, the home of the Navy nuclear system. Let's send out these HEU systems. Let's use the HEU for our nuclear Navy. As the 1, 2, 3 agreements come in, we'll have another need there. And also we'll have a research need around the world for the different developing research programs around the world through Los Alamos and Lawrence Livermore. Lawrence Livermore will kind of cover the Russians and kind of cover the Chinese. I believe Los Alamos is going to be more for the Europeans. Then, well, every once in a while we'll do a peaceful nuclear explosion potentially to see if there's oil or gas somewhere. And we'll have a pretty good system for taking this HEU, which is down in Savannah. It could be at the Savannah River site, which is also a highly secure site. Or if I'm Andrew McCabe, I would prefer that it be in Clarksburg. That I know that's Andy McCabe's vault. He loves that. He calls it the FBI vault. It's called the FBI vault. That's where I would keep it. Now, the other thing is nuclear waste. The nuclear waste in this system is in Y12 here. This is in Knoxville, Tennessee. And also I've got a nuclear waste site out here in Battelle, that Battelle manages out here in Washington. It goes to different government contractors. But in these tailings that are made from these processes, when you're spinning uranium, there's these tailings. And the tailings are still, they're about 0.5% of uranium. If we could spin those, if we could somehow spin those and get those up to the 3% requirement or the 2% requirement for fuel, we could backfill the uranium need, the low enriched uranium need, the 1 or 2% need or 3% need, with these tailings potentially. So what if we did this? Since we don't own these centrifuges here, let's start a program in 2003 that's experimental, and we'll get all the best and latest, greatest centrifuges here. But then we'll kill the project, and that is exactly what happened. And I'll try to pick the right article here. There. So U.S. enrichment, all the players there, are going to do this research process, and they're going to focus on American Centrifuge in Piketown, Ohio. So we're going to start that in 2003. Then that's going to fail, right? That's going to fail. And then we're going to say, well, we're going to buy the centrifuges on 10 cents on the dollar, and we'll just move them all down here to near Sandia in Eunice, here in the corner at the National Enrichment Center. We own that, so now we can spin these older tailings, and we can also be experimenting on the tailings with this laser enrichment. So maybe that'll work. So all of a sudden, this nuclear waste, which is good for nothing, right? Now, some of it, the waste is just water and acid and so forth, and that you can't do anything with. But the tailings, this depleted uranium, we can do weapons with that depleted uranium for an arms business through South Carolina and through the port of Norfolk, through General Grange, or we can experiment with it on trying to reprocess it to fill this Tennessee Valley Authority. Most of the nuclear reactor customers are in this Tennessee Valley Authority, which we control. Okay, so we're in control of this tight system here. We've got a couple of bets going. We got our bets on nuclear waste to provide this. We got a backup bet over here on nuclear uranium ore to provide this. We've got ourselves covered with conventional technology down here with the centrifuges, the latest and greatest. Thank you for the government for buying it for us. And then we'll get this plant going here in Wilmington, Delaware, which is where we're going to build this new third generation plant. And we're going to have GE go in on half, and we'll go in on half, and we're going to run it. Now, guess what level of clearance you need for this project? You need Q level clearance for this project. And it's going to run for about 4 years till about 2012, and then GE's going to bail out. And guess what? Half of this is owned by Australia. Now, I'm not going to say it's Downer, but I'm going to just guess right now Downer's going to be involved because he's going to be giving back the guy who supposedly has the drink in the bar with Papadopoulos. The great thing about this is everybody wants to get in the act on these school plays, and they just give away all their participants. But anyway, we'll see if it's Downer. I think it's going to be Downer, but we'll wait and see. So there's the Australian interest, which is going to be, the company is going to be Silex. And who are we going to get the 25% to for the other half of this project? We're going to give it out here to this guy right out here. I think it's going to be Dick Cheney. I think it's going to be Kamiko. I think it's also going to be the Shinkolobwe mine there. Okay? So what ended up happening was this technology didn't pan out. And then in 2016, they bail out. GE bails out. Okay? They're still running this. They just did a release. Okay, here it is. This is for the enrichment plant. Now, this is what you would do, a cut sheet saying, hey, get in on this now, because you could use the big public corporation of GE, and you know Jeff over there, so he's a big donor to the Clinton Foundation. I can't remember his name right now, but he took over for Jack Welch, I think. Maybe I could be wrong, but Jeff over here, China, 5 Chinas, Jeff, is going to get in on this action, and here you go. We got Hitachi Nuclear right here, and here's the cut sheet. Here's the term sheet. I'm sorry for this corporation. I will bet almost everything I've done on the series that McCabe is in on this, Comey's in on this, and Mueller's in on this. I'm going to say Mueller's in on it with Alex Soros, and I'm going to say the fund is going to be a Cayman Islands fund, just based on metadata, just based on past metadata. Mellon Optima Fund, and also the other fund, maybe the Ivy Fund. I think Ivy's kind of the code word for electricity, and I think they're also going to be selling these remote power stations that they make at Lawrence Livermore and other places. I know that's a lot all in one system, but I think that's actually the secondary market here, is not only to navies all over the world, but then to power plants all over the world as well, for mining applications primarily. Mining applications which are remote, like Alaska, etc., Antarctica, and then you've also, the power need is great, and no electricity lines there. You don't want to have to build a power plant. And then the other one is going to be for military and installations that need to keep alive. And if you're the Secretary of State, that's your stock and trade. That's what you do on a daily basis. Now, I would load up the State Department with a bunch of senior executive service people. I'd gun that service up from 1,000 people to 10,000 people over my time at the Secretary of State to negotiate all these deals. I got 1, 2, 3 deals coming out the yin yang here. I've got 1, 2, 3 deals for experimental uranium, for the components for building these experimental facilities, the high energy laser. Remember, I've got an R&D capital. I've got R&D center here in Wilmington, demonstration center. I can then start exporting this Silex laser technology out for the different research centers. I think Ukraine's going to be a big buyer. And then the other thing I can do is start developing a weapons program. As I start signing weapons deals on my secure BlackBerries that Anthony's trusted staff provided me, then I can start doing that as well. And that's exactly what I think happened. And that's how I think the pieces all fit together. More is coming. We'll have more data to support all this. This is just working theory at this point, but it fits together pretty well. And I do think Seth Rich is alive. I think his name is Adam Rothschild, or Aaron Rothschild, excuse me. I think he's going to be in Broomfield, Colorado, somewhere around there. And everybody's going to be, all the kids are going to get involved in the government contracting for purchasing this stuff, developing projects. It only makes sense if the parents are involved upstream in all the big projects. Wouldn't you want your kids involved in the downstream, in the contracting agencies, in the supply tree and the supply chain?